Today we're talking about something most Canadians don't realize they're missing out on, paying rent with a credit card. Because if you're spending $1,500 or $2,000 every month on rent and earning zero rewards on it, you're leaving hundreds of dollars on the table. But that's where Chexy comes in, a Canadian platform that turns your rent into rewards points, cashback, and even helps build your credit without your landlord changing a thing. So in this video, I'll show you exactly how Chexy works, how much it costs, and how to use it strategically so you come out ahead every month. And by the end, you'll have a smarter system for paying rent and a totally different view on what your credit card can actually do for you. So here's the reality. Most landlords don't accept credit cards. They want e-transfers, pre-authorized debits, or even checks. And that means your rent, which is probably your largest monthly expense, earns you zero rewards points, zero cash back, nothing. But Chexy changes this. Launched in early 2023, it's the first Canadian service that lets you use your preferred credit card for paying your rent, even when your landlord doesn't accept credit cards directly. And the result is simple. You can earn thousands of rewards points or a significant amount of cash back instead of paying by e-transfer with no rewards. So if you want to see how Chexy actually works, you can head to chexy.co and sign up using your email address or Google account. And then once you're inside your account, go to the Setup Rent Payments tab and follow the prompts there. You'll first be asked to choose your goal, which is either to pay rent only or pay rent and build credit. And if you select the credit building option, then Chexy will report your rent payments to Equifax, which can help strengthen your credit history over time. And then after that, you'll go through a one-time setup flow to create your household. And that means entering your rent details, so your rent amount, your landlord's name, the due date, and uploading a copy of your lease agreement as proof. And then you need to choose how your landlord normally prefers to be paid. So that could be an Interac e-transfer, pre-authorized debit, or a bill payment through your online banking. You'll also link a Canadian bank account and the credit card you want Chexy to charge each month. You can even add multiple cards and choose which card to use before each billing cycle. And then once everything is set up, here's what happens every month. 3 business days before your rent is due, Chexy charges your selected credit card for the full amount of your rent. And then from there, the money sits in your Chexy wallet until rent day. And then on the selected date, Chexy pays your landlord using the method you selected. And from the landlord's point of view, nothing has changed at all. They got paid on time through the same channel you're already using. They don't have to sign up, they don't need to approve anything, and they don't even need to know Chexy exists. But on your end, you've just turned a boring, non-rewarding expense into a regular stream of cashback, points, or even airplane miles. And then once this is all in place, the process is completely automated. You don't have to lift a finger, and every rent payment becomes another chance to hit welcome bonuses or just build up your credit history behind the scenes. Now, the biggest reason renters turn to Chexy is because you can earn thousands of points or up to 4% cash back annually depending on the credit card you use. And when you run the numbers, the upside actually becomes pretty clear. Let's say you have a card that earns 4% on recurring bills. So for every $1,000 you pay in rent, you'll get $40 back. So if your monthly rent is $2,000, then that's $80 a month or $960 a year just for paying rent in this particular way. And even after Chexy's transaction fee, which I'll cover in more detail in a minute, you'll still be ahead by several $100s a year. But as I mentioned, Chexy doesn't just help you earn rewards, it can also help you build credit. Through its partnership with Equifax, Chexy now reports your on-time rent payments directly to Canada's credit bureaus. And so this means that your rent, which is usually invisible to lenders, can now contribute to your credit history and potentially improve your credit score over time. This is especially useful if you're a newcomer to Canada, rebuilding your credit, or you just want to strengthen your credit profile without taking on new debt. As long as you're an active Chexy user, rent reporting is included at no extra cost. And once you switch it on, it continues automatically in the background alongside your monthly payments. But of course, all of this only works if the numbers make sense. So let's look at what Chexy actually costs and when the math works out in your favor. So Chexy charges a processing fee on every rent payment made by credit card. And for Canadian Visa or American Express users, the rate is 1.75%. And then if you're using a MasterCard or a foreign issued card, then the fee increases to 2.5%. So let's break that down. On a $2,000 monthly rent, a 1.75% fee comes out to $35 a month or $420 a year. So that's your cost to unlock rewards and credit building features. Now, to make Chexy worth it, your credit card needs to earn more than that in rewards. So if your card gives you 4% cash back on recurring bills, then $2,000 in rent would earn $80 a month. Subtract the $35 fee, and you're left with a $45 net gain every month, or $540 a year after fees. That's a solid 2.25% return on money you were already spending. But if your card only earns 1.25%, then your $2,000 in rent would only generate $25 in rewards, which doesn't even cover the $35 fee. So in that case, you'll be losing money. And that's why Chexy recommends using a card that earns at least 2% back to break even, and ideally more so you come out further ahead. So before you commit, do the math. Compare your card's earn rate to Chexy's fee and make sure you're still getting positive value after the cost. And that means to get the most out of Chexy, you need a credit card that earns strong rewards on recurring bills or everyday purchases. And in Canada, there are a few standout options that consistently deliver these kind of solid returns, especially for rent payments. First up is the Scotiabank Momentum Visa Infinite. This card earns 4% cash back on groceries, gas, and recurring bills, and Chexy counts as a recurring bill. If you're paying $2,000 a month in rent, and that works out to $960 a year in rewards, and then subtract Chexy's $420 in annual fees, and you're still left with a net gain of $540 or 2.25% back on your rent. This is a really popular option that a lot of people like to use. But another good option is the TD Cashback Visa Infinite, which earns 3% back on recurring bills. And so on the same $2,000 of rent, that's $720 a year in rewards, and after the Chexy fee, you're left with $300 a year. So it's not as strong as the Scotiabank card, but it's still a solid return. And if you're into travel points, then Aeroplan co-branded cards are also worth a look. A card like the American Express Aeroplan Reserve earns 1.25 times the points on general purchases, which includes Chexy rent payments. And at a valuation of 2 cents per Aeroplan point, that's effectively 2.5% back. So again, on $2,000 in monthly rent, you'll earn 30,000 Aeroplan points a year, which are worth around $600 in travel value. And then after the Chexy fees, your net value is around $180. So again, not as high as with the other cards, but it's still solid, especially if you're saving up your points for flights. And so the bottom line is that Chexy works best when paired with a high earning card. Aim for at least 2% back to break even, and ideally 3% or more in order to come out ahead. So if your card only earns 1 or 1.5% on general purchases or recurring bill payments, then you're going to be losing money. That's why the card you use really matters. Now, as with any financial tool, Chexy isn't perfect, and there are a few things you need to watch out for if you're planning to use it month after month. In my view, the biggest risk is interest. If you're carrying a balance on your credit card, then the rewards you earn through Chexy won't just be canceled out, they'll be wiped out completely. Most credit cards charge 20% interest or more, so that's going to destroy any of the 1 or 2% rewards that you'll receive from paying your rent through Chexy. So this strategy only works if you're disciplined about paying off your balance in full every month. Otherwise, it's not worth it. Another thing to keep in mind is how some credit cards treat recurring payments. For many cards, the first charge made through Chexy may not trigger the recurring bill bonus rate right away. It's often only the second payment, once the system recognizes Chexy as a recurring transaction, that's going to qualify. So if you're expecting a boosted earn rate, then you may need to wait until month 2 before you see it kick in. And then there's the timing. Chexy charges your card 3 business days before your rent is due, so you'll need to make sure that you have enough available credit at that specific time. If the charge fails, because maybe you've hit your credit limit or you changed cards and forgot to update the card details, then Chexy will notify you, but you're going to need to act fast because there's not a lot of room for delay. And another thing to keep in mind is that Chexy is currently a web-only platform. There's no mobile app yet, so you'll need to manage everything through their website. For most users, that's not much of an issue, but if you prefer managing your finances through an app, then it is something to be aware of. And I also want to mention reliability here, because you obviously want to make sure that your rent payments make it through every month. And on that note, there was a recent post in the Chexy subreddit from a longtime Chexy user whose rent payment, which they'd been making through Chexy for many months, never actually made it to their landlord. And so the tenant who made the original post on Reddit had this lengthy back and forth process with their landlord, who said that they never paid, but the tenant actually did pay. So somehow the money kind of got lost. Now, from the discussion that follows on Reddit, and Chexy CEO Liza actually joins in the conversation in that Reddit thread, it appears that the landlord's email got hacked or something like that, and so the funds were actually stolen before the landlord even received them. So both the tenant and the landlord were actually being honest. The tenant did pay the rent, and the landlord never received the money, but someone in between intercepted the funds, and they got lost in the process. Now, to be clear, as far as I can tell, this isn't actually a Chexy problem, since they did deliver the transfer like they were supposed to. But at the same time, it does seem that some back-end processes could be tightened up on Chexy's side, and from what their CEO Liza said on Reddit, it seems that they're looking into solving those to prevent this kind of thing from happening again in the future. But still, it is the kind of thing you want to be aware of, because this does change how you pay rent a little bit, and there are third-party issues that could come up. But now with everything laid out, the setup, the fees, the rewards, and the risks, the real question is Chexy actually worth using? In my view, if you're using the right credit card, then I'd say Chexy is worth using. spending, because it really comes down to one thing. If your rewards outweigh Chexy's fee, then you're earning value on money you had to spend anyway. But on the flip side, if your card doesn't give you enough back, then you're going to be losing money every rent cycle. So you need to choose wisely because you want to overcome those fees. But on top of all that, you also want to consider the impact this can have on credit card sign-up bonuses, because if you have a new card with a sign-up bonus to hit, then charging large rent payments to your card can quickly satisfy a pretty hefty minimum spend. For example, the American Express Platinum card requires you to hit $10,000 in spending in the first 3 months to receive a big portion of its welcome bonus. And so that's a lot of spending for a lot of people, but if you're able to charge $1,000 or $2,000 a month onto the card from your rent, then hitting that spending requirement becomes a lot more manageable. And yes, you may not come out ahead purely on the Chexy side of that transaction, but if it's helping you earn thousands of dollars in welcome bonus rewards, then the math definitely works out in your favor. So overall, Chexy is a Canadian solution that gives you a simple way to pay your rent with a credit card and earn rewards on an expense that usually gives you nothing back. It turns your rent into the kind of spending that earns points, cashback, or even free flights, just like groceries or travel bookings. But as you've seen here, how much you earn in rewards really comes down to choosing the right credit card. Because when you get that right, the rewards don't just add up, they multiply. And with the right card setup, you could be earning more points in the next 12 months than you ever thought possible. So if you're ready to take this strategy to the next level and see how the top 1% of Canadian travelers are earning 5 to 10 times more points than the average Canadian, watch this video next.